Well, good morning. I want to thank everyone for joining us today as we share with you some of the important safeguards in place to protect Iowa elections. And I want to note that we have our team lined up here with us. I want to especially thank each of our partners here today for not only joining us, but for the work they do year-round to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections. And safeguarding Iowa's elections is a team effort. And each of these agencies and speakers are here today to play a critical role in protecting our elections. First and foremost, I want Iowa voters to be assured that when they cast their vote in the general election, that their vote will be counted fairly and accurately. Thanks to our layered approach to election integrity, Iowa remains a top-ranked state nationally for election administration. One of the important pieces of our election integrity includes the pre-testing of our election equipment, which is open to the public, Iowans voting on paper ballots. You can't hack a paper ballot. Post-election audits that take place for a randomly selected precinct in all 99 counties following the election, a bipartisan team that hand counts the ballots to ensure that they match the totals from the voting tabulators. Following the 2020 general election, the 2022 midterm election, and the 2023 city school election, the hand count audits matched perfectly, 100% in every county. Ongoing maintenance of voter registration lists, the implementation of physical and cybersecurity measures, the ongoing training and preparedness exercises with our county auditors, and implementing incident response plans. Partnerships at all levels of government, which includes everyone who is up here with me today, as well as our local election officials in all 99 counties. And we have a secret weapon, and that's our poll workers. Poll workers are trusted faces in your communities who step up to work long hours on election day because they care about the integrity of the election process and protecting the vote for their neighbors. These poll workers check in voters, hand out ballots, answer questions, and overall ensure a positive and fair voting experience across all 99 counties. And in today's digital age, we are increasingly working to counter misinformation. This includes ongoing, proactive outreach to the public with trusted information around the voting process. I want to encourage Iowans to verify information they receive, whether it be online or through word of mouth, with trusted sources of information. Those trusted sources include us at the Iowa Secretary of State's office and your local county auditor. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Commissioner Stephen Baines with the Iowa Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Secretary Pate. Good morning. I would like to start by saying that voting is one of our most sacred civic responsibilities, and the Department of Public Safety will do everything in its power to ensure that Iowans can discharge that responsibility safely and with confidence. Next, I want to thank the Secretary of State's office for its effort in bringing together this broad group, all of whom are committed to protecting our electoral process. Intelligence and law enforcement agencies at all levels of government have been tasked with ensuring our elections are safe and secure. Iowans respect and actively engage in their right to vote, and they do so with civility and integrity. The Department of Public Safety takes its responsibility to protect this right seriously, and law enforcement will be active in deterring any criminal effort to compromise our system of government. The role of our intelligence and law enforcement teams is to monitor and assess digital and physical threats along with our local, state, and federal partners. Those potential threats include both foreign and domestic adversaries. Our duty and focus for the upcoming election is to alert Iowans as to any false information that may circulate through email, social media, or telephone calls, as well as any physical threats on Election Day or in the days that follow. The Department's Division of Intelligence and Fusion Center serves as the statewide hub for monitoring and collecting threat information from our more than 3,000 state, local, and federal partners. As we receive reported threats, they are immediately assessed by our team and then shared with all necessary parties, whether that be the Secretary of State's office or our federal and local partners. Historically, false information is centered around alleged changes to polling places, hours of operation, or the existence of voter intimidation in an effort to spread fear and distrust. Please also be mindful of scam artists claiming you can register a ballot or vote online or over the phone. These fraudsters are attempting to obtain your personal information so they can either steal your identity or trick you into believing you have already voted. We encourage all Iowans to be mindful of such efforts and to only rely on trusted information sources such as state or local election officials. In closing, please know that we will work tirelessly with our partners to disrupt any attempt to interfere with our democratic process. Every Iowan is owed this commitment, and the Department of Public Safety will uphold that commitment, as well as Iowa's election laws. Thanks, Secretary Pate.
Thank you, Stephen. Next, we have the Director John Benson of the Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Thank you, Secretary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Iowa's Emergency Operations Center. For those of you that have been here before or are new, this is where we do all the state coordination for any type of response effort that we might need to undertake in the future. In the past, that has included training and exercises with all of the folks you see here, as well as other federal and state agencies to support election security. The basic philosophy in emergency management is, let's have a handshake before we actually get to having to do something together. So we've been working on that over the past couple of years. It's always an ongoing effort. That includes our work with the local auditors as well. So it's a top-down, bottom-up. We meet in the middle and we make things happen if we have to. As you see with our partners here, not only with DPS, but FBI, CISA, Department of Homeland Security, Intelligence and Analysis, even the Air National Guard folks, which we'll speak in just a minute. It's part of an overall ongoing effort that we've been undertaking in the past couple of years, and we've even dedicated some of our federal Homeland Security monies to support physical security of the election equipment you will find out at the local level. What will happen here during the election is the SEOC will be open. We will be in here. We will be monitoring. We will be having conversations with local auditors. We will be having conversations with the Secretary's team, the cyber folks, the Guard folks. We'll all be in here. Best case scenario is we sit in here for a long time and we don't do anything. That's what I'm fully expecting to have happen, but if something were to happen, we've got all of the right agencies in here to coordinate any type of action that we may need to undertake as a state. A person-to-person conversation is a lot quicker than doing it over a phone, doing it over a text. I can have a quick conversation with the Secretary's staff. We can make things happen. My goal for my staff is that the election goes off cleanly and fairly. The Secretary's team has done great work. We're here to back him up as he works through this process. And as folks get out and vote, that's ultimately our goal, is that we want to have a safe election. We want Iowans to feel confident in the process. And my last little bit of advice would be, since my parents are volunteers on election day, thank those folks that are working. They're out there doing an important job, so take an opportunity to thank them. But rest assured that our folks will be here in the Emergency Operations Center if anything were to arise. So thank you, Secretary. Appreciate the support.
Thank you. Next, we have our Iowa Chief Information Security Officer, Shane Dwyer.
I'd like to thank the Secretary of State's office and our entire election security team who work tirelessly to ensure safe elections in Iowa. Cyber attacks are a rising danger in today's digital world. Especially during elections, the Department of Management Division of Information Technology takes threats seriously with safeguards in place to prevent them, including a 24/7 heightened cyber threat monitoring of election offices leading up to and during Elections Day. Collaboration with county election offices to protect against threats from every angle. Engagement in multiple communication channels, allowing security partners to comprehend extent of threats and better recognize indicators of compromise. State, federal, and local partners prepared for this election with real-world incident response training to better identify risks and improve our response plans. Iowans can be confident knowing that these security efforts are in full force across the state and elections are more secure now than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Next, we have Iowa National Guard Brigadier General Mark Keppelman, Director of the Joint Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The National Guard is proud to support our state government in the realm of election security. This assistance is a great opportunity for us to highlight the highly trained airmen of the 168th Cyber Operations Squadron, and the soldiers of our defensive cyber operations element. Given the threats we face today, protecting our state's digital infrastructure is equally important to protecting our state's physical infrastructure. Governor Reynolds has directed the Iowa National Guard to support the Office of the Iowa Secretary of State and the Department of Management, Division of Information Technology during the 2024 presidential election cycle to assure the security and integrity of the state's electoral systems and networks. Like previous elections, the Adjutant General, Major General Steve Osborne, has activated what we call Joint Task Force Cyber. This team is comprised of cybersecurity experts from the aforementioned units. We are proud of this team and the opportunity to serve the people of Iowa by defending our cyber domain during this primary election season. And with that, I'll turn it over to Major Chris Johnson, the JTF Cyber Lead, for more specifics.
Thank you, General. Joint Task Force Cyber has developed excellent relationships with our supported state agencies. We have performed the role in Iowa elections for the past 6 years and have trained closely with our counterparts throughout the last 9 months. Our Air and Army service members are very familiar with the Secretary of State's software monitoring tools. We have exercised together frequently, to include an extensive 2-week Guard civic government exercise in Lincoln, Nebraska last June. Our team will be embedded right here at the State Emergency Operations Center, working side by side with our state IT personnel. Guardsmen serve as a force multiplier to monitor and protect Iowa's official government networks. We remain vigilant as we watch for any attempts to tamper with the election website and associated electronic digital networks. It is our aim to support voter confidence in the security of election infrastructure. Iowa National Guard members remain ready and capable to assist the state of Iowa. This is just one of the many examples of what Iowa National Guard can benefit Iowans. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Next, we have Phil Kirk, Regional Director of the CISA region. Phil?
Good morning. Thank you, Secretary Pate, for inviting CISA to be with you here again today, and thank you to the members of the media in attendance who are covering this immensely important topic. Already, many Americans have cast their ballots, and millions more will do so between now and November 5th. I'm proud of the fact that Iowa state and local election officials work year-round to prepare for safe and secure elections, and that CISA, security experts across this state and across this region, participate in that, providing whatever support is needed. Ultimately, all of the work results in elections that all Iowans and the American people can place confidence in. The 2024 election cycle is facing arguably the most complex threat environment ever, but the nation's elections infrastructure is also more secure, and the election community more prepared than ever. This is not an accident. It is the result of hard work across the election security community, led by Secretary Pate in Iowa and other state and local election officials around the country who secure and administer the American election process. These public servants are true frontline defenders, or heroes of American democracy, and CISA is proud to support them by offering a range of services and support to help in administering safe and secure elections throughout the country. The American people should feel confident that their votes will be counted as cast, and that they should know our election is secure as a result of the work taking place in the election space, not just today, not just in the past few weeks, but 365 days a year. Election security is a top priority for CISA, but election security is a team sport. No single agency, organization, or individual can confront today's numerous and varied security challenges alone. We're engaged with officials in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. territories to manage risk from a variety of sources, and under Secretary Pate's leadership, our partnership with election officials across the state of Iowa is strong and steadfast. We see this across the country with things such as all vote casting and all vote counting systems being tested and retested before being deployed. Layers of cybersecurity measures being used to secure against and monitor malicious cyber activity, and all states doing some form of post-election validation or audit. Most important, when it comes to November, it is estimated that over 97% of registered voters, including every voter in Iowa, will be casting ballots in jurisdictions that have voter verifiable paper records which enable counts, recounts, and audits. We at CISA explain our country's layered approach to election security and provide free resources to our election security partners on the CISA Protect 2024 website, which can be found directly at www.cisa.gov/protect2024. Again, I want to address Iowa voters directly. Thanks mostly to the hard work of your state and local election officials, their partners, and CISA security experts across this region, I have confidence that we are doing everything we can to ensure a secure and resilient election, and that you should be confident too. Participate in our democracy. Get out there and vote. And if you have questions about the process, remember that your state and local election officials, your local county auditors, are the best sources for accurate information. Secretary Pate's office is a great place to start. Thank you again, Secretary Pate, for allowing CISA to join you here today, and thank you for you and your state's unwavering efforts to ensure our democracy.
Next, we have the FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge, Clint Nevey.
Thank you, Secretary Pate. Good morning, everyone. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about what the FBI is doing with regard to election security. Our office covers the states of Iowa and Nebraska, and it is truly an honor to be here today. The FBI is the primary agency responsible for investigating election-related crimes, foreign malign influence, malicious cyber activity against election infrastructure, and threats to election workers. In the months leading up to Election Day, the FBI has been engaged in extensive preparations. As always, we are working closely with our federal, state, and local partners, so everyone involved with safeguarding the election has the information and resources necessary to respond in a timely manner to any violations that may arise. The FBI has a responsibility to plan for a host of potential scenarios related to election fraud, voter suppression, foreign malign influence, malicious cyber activity against election infrastructure, and threats to election workers. We are committed to protecting the American public's right to a fair and safe election. The FBI works closely with our federal, state, and local partners to identify and stop any threats to public safety. We gather and analyze intelligence to determine whether individuals might be motivated to take violent action for any reason, including due to concerns about the election. It is vital the FBI, our law enforcement partners, and the public work together to protect our communities as Americans exercise their right to vote. We encourage members of the public to remain vigilant and immediately report any suspicious activity to law enforcement. The FBI offices across the country are standing up election command posts to coordinate with their local and state partners, as well as the FBI's headquarters National Election Command Post. This enables each FBI field office to streamline communications and response and ensure the safety and security of the elections and of the public. The FBI takes all threats of violence very seriously. The work of election officials, their staff, and volunteers is essential to our democracy, and any threat to these public servants is completely unacceptable. The FBI remains vigilant in our efforts to detect and assess possible threats, and as always, we encourage the public to promptly report suspicious activities which could represent a threat to public safety. The FBI is ready, willing, and able to investigate these crimes, but we also need the public's help. The FBI encourages citizens to report election crimes and threats targeting election workers to the FBI Omaha field office at 402-493-8688, or go online to tips.fbi.gov, or by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-225-5324. Thank you.
Thank you all. I want to underscore the significance of having each of these partners together in the room now before the election. We recognize the important roles each of these agencies play in protecting the integrity of our vote. It is because of numerous checks and balances and many, many layers in place that help us to ensure that Iowa elections are safe and secure. And before we wrap up, I do want to address a topic that I'm sure is on your minds, which is our recent announcement about non-citizen voters. The role of Iowa's Commissioner of Elections requires balance. On one end, it's absolutely critical that every eligible voter is able to cast their ballot and make their voices heard. On the other end, we are required to follow state and federal law and ensure that only eligible voters participate. This process ensures that every eligible voter can vote. No one has been removed from voter rolls. We have put together the best possible team to keep Iowa elections safe and secure, and that includes all of the local election officials on the front lines. And I have the utmost confidence in our local county auditors and the 10,000 poll workers, our neighbors and friends, who are the ones working our physical elections. I know there are more questions, and for the sake of time, we have put together a fact sheet that answers the most common questions we have received over the last week. I ask you to refer to that document, which we'll hand out and provide via email to each of you. If you do have additional follow-up questions, I will refer you to our communications team as well, because I'm sure we'll be putting out more information as the week goes on until through the election. For many years, I've been guided by three core principles: service, participation, and integrity. We keep this in mind as we undergo the process of protecting Iowa elections and keeping Iowa voters' rolls clean. We're focused on serving local election officials and supporting them in their election day procedures, which is why we have offered them guidance on this process and work with them on a daily basis on helping them prepare for the upcoming election. We've taken every effort available to us to ensure that eligible voters are able to participate in the election process and cast their ballot this November. And we take this role of election integrity very seriously. Remember, folks, we have paper ballots, pre-election equipment testing, post-election audits, physical and cybersecurity measures, partnerships at the state and federal and local levels, and we have really hard-working folks at the front lines, our local election officials and poll workers. Now we'll open up to a few questions, if we can. In today's landscape, misinformation can and does quickly spread. That's why I urge you to be vigilant and rely on trusted sources for your election information. This time, any questions?
Secretary Pate, it seems like some of the people on this list that your office flagged as potential non-citizens are in fact naturalized citizens. What steps did you take to verify whether or not these folks were citizens or had become naturalized before you instructed county auditors to challenge them at the polls?
Well, not to shortchange my answer here, we put all that information out to you, and we have additional information we'll be sharing with you. But we are limited on what access we have to certain federal documents, and that has been a frustration we've been fighting and dealing with as we repeatedly put requests out to the folks in Washington, D.C. to have a complete list of those folks who are legally here and are non-citizens. And to this date, they have not been cooperative in giving us that list. So that means what we are using is we're using basically the DOT has a list source that is one that the individual has confirmed that they're not a citizen, or they have not acknowledged they're a citizen. And the challenge we have with those 2,000 names is that because of the timing of driver's licenses, some of them may have become a citizen since they filled out that form. It's very frustrating because, as I said, we're balancing this process. We want everyone to be able to vote. That is why none of them have been taken off the voter rolls. But we do owe an obligation to make sure that they are citizens now, and that's why we've asked the county auditors through the poll workers to challenge those votes, to allow them to confirm their citizenship status so that we can count their vote as well. We be very clear about that's why we haven't been trying to reach out and intimidate them or cause them not to want to come vote prior to the election. We want to make sure that folks come, experience their opportunity to vote, and allow us to try to sort out those details.
Talking about the online voter registration database, how long has your office been aware
I'm not sure I follow your question.
So we're talking about the naturalized citizens that appear on this list. Can you tell me about how long your office has been aware that the non-citizen, the self-reported non-citizen data has some issues with, in terms of like still being relevant to these person's current citizenship status?
Well, we've always been aware that it's not 100%. That is why we keep asking the federal government over and over and over for access to the master national list of those individuals here that are not citizens. We need to know that, and we will keep applying for that, and we're not going to stop till we get it. Any other questions?
Pate, is it your position that legally, if somebody at some point years in the past indicated on a DOT form that they're not citizens, that that is sufficient grounds to force them to go through extra steps, vote with a provisional ballot, go through hurdles and prove their citizenship that other people don't? And one reason I'm asking is because State Representative Josh Turek informed me that his own wife was flagged through this process. And she actually had just recently proved her citizenship to the county auditor because she was flagged in one of these mass challenges that happened a month or two ago. So they had already reconfirmed that she is a naturalized citizen, and then they find out that she's on this list that your office sent out of supposed non-citizens.
Well, I think you answered your own question, and that is, and as I stated already, we're working off the only list that we have available to us, unless the Department of Justice and Homeland Security is willing to give us the master list. This is the best we can do. We're not stopping anyone from voting. They are still on the voter registration rolls. This is different than what you're seeing in other states where they've removed these people. We are simply asking our poll workers to confirm their citizenship status because of the lag period in the records we have available to us right now. I don't believe, let me finish. I don't believe for one moment that most of these citizens are going to be put in a position where they cannot vote. That's why we're doing a provisional for those individuals. And that's why we count on county auditors to be able to assist us with some of the information. Just as you mentioned, if the auditor's aware of it, then there's no issue. She would not be challenged on election day because they already know. The trouble is the lag in getting that information through the process. And we're going to continue to work on that with the legislature and hopefully Congress and the federal government being better about giving us information.
You're saying she wouldn't be challenged, but she's on the list that you sent.
That's not a master list. I mean, it's not a sense of every one of them are challenged. The auditor has the latitude. If they know the answer already, then there's no point in challenging it.
The Lynn County auditor was able to
Next question. I'm going to give everybody a chance. Anybody else?
You mentioned people being removed. It's now clear that some county auditors have removed people from voter registration lists during a so-called quiet period. Can you tell us how many challenges have been filed in at least the 3 counties, if not more, that have been identified by VoteSmart?
When VoteSmart brought it, VoteSmart works with our office on this issue. When they brought it to our attention, some counties may have went beyond the 90-day or 70-day window. There's 2 different windows. We directed the county auditors to reach out to their county attorneys because we didn't think that that was appropriate and need to put some of those folks back on, not knowing every detail, but we wanted to make sure they were aware of it. To the best of my knowledge, most if not all those counties have went back and done that. Well, clearly we're going to be following back up on that to make sure, but it has been addressed and we hope that it's been corrected.
Are you directing, sorry, you mentioned the 90-day period and also the 70-day period under state law. Can you maybe explain the difference or if they should be processing any challenges within that 90-day period at all?
Well, there are things we do process. We process deaths. We process several other categories, and I'll be happy to get those for you. But there is a select number that the government allows us to do. Allows us to do, and we want to be very sensitive to that.
But if the challenge fell inside the 90-day period but outside the 70-day period, unless it fell into one of those exceptions, they should not be processing those?
That would be my opinion.
The Lynn County auditor was able to confirm the citizenship status of some of the folks on the 2022 list. What information do they have access to that your office needs?
You would need to ask them that. I can tell you that we have appealed to the Homeland Security and U.S. Immigration to get access to the master list so we could have narrowed that 2,000 list down, because I'm very confident that there aren't 2,000, but sadly we are forced to have to work with the information we have available because the federal government has tied my hands, and We cannot do a redo on an election. I mean, literally, the election day is Tuesday, and what we have to do is try to come up with a balance on how do we encourage participation, but also have integrity, and working also on the fact we have to be able to implement it with the least resistance and trying to make sure it goes smoothly. So the best measure we could design and come up with was giving the 2,000 names, giving them some guidance and explaining to people this does not take them off the voter rolls. These are people that, based on the information we have available to us, we have questions. We need to get them answered. That is why they're not being told they can't vote as well. In a perfect world, I would have liked to have the federal list, because I suspect if the federal list was here, we'd probably only have about 12 or 15% of those names. There are names there. There are names, and in my opinion, when the dust all settles, we will have people who shouldn't be voting. Of the 2,000 names, I have no idea yet how many will actually want to come out and vote, who will actually take advantage of the situation in a wrong way. But we want to be preventive and we want to be on guard. Any other questions?
In September, you didn't sound that concerned about non-citizen voting. You said you didn't think it was a big problem. Did something change between then and the time that you requested that list from the DOJ? Why didn't you request it sooner so that this wouldn't be happening so close to the election?
We were watching how other states were dealing with it. We've been looking at trying to determine what legal sources we can use. I think we're all pretty sharp in watching what's going on around the country. Every time a move is made, there's a lawsuit. There's another lawsuit. There's another lawsuit. So we need to make sure whatever we're doing is going to stand up in court. It's fair to the folks, so we're not disadvantaging anybody from being able to disenfranchising anybody from voting. So we had to look for what options we had available to us. We needed to find out what list could we get access to. And we do get some DOT reporting. This is just happened to be one item on the DOT that we didn't have on our radar that we were ready to respond to. And as soon as it was brought to our attention, we went out and we ran that. And as quickly as we could, we just tried to sort out, now what? Okay, we found the 2,000 names. What's next? We went through manually to review them again, because we didn't just want to send these out. So my staff has gone through this manually to review them as well before we did it. The reason we sent it to the counties now is because we feel the public expects us to address the issue, because we've had so much pressure put on the elections process across the country about not only non-citizens, but about anything that's not got full transparency in an election. And this is the closest we could come to providing that transparency at this time. As I've said now repeatedly, in a perfect world, I'm going to tell you right now, if the folks in Washington, D.C. would cooperate and let us have what I don't understand is the big secret, is a list of non-citizens who are here. These are legal non-citizens who are here, so that we can check against our database. This would be a moot point, and I could stand here today and tell you this is the hard number of how many people are showing that they have registered to vote who are not citizens in the United States. That would make things so much simpler, but we have to work with what we have. One more question. You had one?
You had mentioned that the voter registration rules have been audited very frequently. Is this the first time you're taking a look at citizenship? And if not, some of the voter registration information dates back to the 2000s, so why was this maybe
Sure.
not looked at before?
Well, we have constantly looked at what information we had on I call it the fields that we monitor. This was one that had not arisen to be given the attention that we're giving it today. And obviously a lot of it's just because of the attention that's come up in the public, wanting to know the answer. Just as you're asking me the question, the public are asking the question, and that is, are you checking to see if they're all citizens? And I think the alarming issue was when we identified the more definitive list, the 100 and some plus names, who have themselves said they're not a U.S. citizen and have been voting or have registered to vote. Those are the hard looks we have. It was alarming to us. So that has led us to even do more diving into what's going on. The frustration, I'll say it again, we can't get the federal list. And I do not understand why not. I do not. But let's walk away from today's an understanding. What we're having happen here in Iowa is not the same as in Virginia. It's not the same as happening in Alabama or these other states. We've taken none of them off the voter registration list. So nobody has been disenfranchised from their opportunity to come in and vote. What we've asked is we've asked for our poll workers to challenge select number to make sure we can verify their citizenship status, but not stop them from voting. Their vote will be cast. They'll vote like everybody else. The only difference is it'll be put in an envelope, and we'll have a week to sort it out, and hopefully the federal government will step up and give us the information we've asked for.
So they will have to cast a provisional ballot, or if they prove they're a citizen when they arrive at the.
If they prove themselves, it's done. They vote like everybody else. Over with.
I just wanted to
there a risk?
clarify, you haven't taken a look at the citizenship before, this is first time?
We have looked at it from the standpoint that when people sign their application to be a voter, they're saying they're a citizen. That's how we have to go. That's the way the law, both state and federal, works. So that's what we've been using. What we've also checked against is things like jury lists. People who say, no, I can't serve on jury because I'm not a U.S. citizen. Well, then when we look at it, well, you're registered to vote, so which is it? That's one element. The DOT, when you come in to get your license. Are you a citizen? No, I'm not a citizen. Well, our voter registration list says you are registered. So those are checkpoints we look at, one of many. Thank you for coming today. And again, take a look at the list we put together of the fact sheet. We'll be happy to try to answer more questions, and we will be updating you more this week on things that come up on this topic and other election things. Thank you again. Thank you, guys, everybody. All right. Thanks, sir. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good.